A warm golden glow drifted across the backstage hall as the young Cebu teen stood quietly in the corner, his hands shaking softly, even though he kept trying to control them, breathing in and out like someone preparing for the moment that might change his entire life. He had never imagined a place this big, with lights shining like distant moons, and camera lenses following every movement, as if watching every heartbeat he carried. And yet here he was, standing on the edge of the America's Got Talent stage, feeling the weight of every memory he carried from Cebu, from the nights under the old mango tree, where he first learned how a voice could dance in the air, from the mornings when his grandfather would sit with an old guitar and say that music is not something you learn, but something you feel, something that lives inside your chest, like a tiny flame, waiting for the right wind to rise higher. He remembered how they listened to Elvis Presley together, how the deep, warm voice of Elvis filled their small room and made everything feel possible. His grandfather always told him that one day, his voice would find its own place in the world. And now as he stood backstage, hearing the distant cheers from the audience, he felt that same promise echoing inside him softly, steadily telling him that he belonged here, that he could face the world with nothing but a microphone and the truth in his voice. And when his name was finally called, he felt his feet moving before he even realized it, carrying him toward the glowing stage like a tide that refused to stop. When he stepped into the spotlight, the entire auditorium seemed to inhale at once. A long breath of curiosity and wonder that wrapped around him like a warm blanket. The judges looked at him with interest, but Simon Cowell stared with a special sharpness, as if he sensed a quiet storm inside the teen. The audience leaned forward, wanting to know who this young boy was, why he looked nervous and brave at the same time. And the teen introduced himself slowly, saying he was from Cebu in the Philippines, saying he grew up listening to Elvis because his grandfather loved the music of those times, saying that singing reminded him of home, of warm nights and simple joys. His voice cracked just a little when he mentioned his grandfather, but he took a deep breath, studying himself like a small boat fighting a strong wave. And when Simon gently asked what he would sing, the boy answered with a soft smile that he would perform an Elvis classic to honor the man who believed in him before anyone else did. The lights dimmed slowly. The room dropped into a thick silence. The kind of silence that feels like the whole world is waiting for a miracle and for a moment. The teen closed his eyes, letting every memory gather inside him like a flame ready to rise. The first note left his throat like a warm breeze traveling across an empty field. Soft at first, trembling slightly, but filled with a deep soulfulness that made the judges freeze in their seats. The audience blinked, as if they could not believe such a voice was coming from a boy this young, and then the voice grew stronger, deeper, carrying that classic Elvis tone, yet filled with something uniquely Filipino, a rich warmth that carried both longing and hope. His tone wrapped around the entire hall like a ribbon of gold, moving through every listener with gentle force. People in the front row placed their hands over their hearts. A few closed their eyes, as if the music took them somewhere far away. And Simon Cowell leaned forward slowly, his expression shifting from curiosity to surprise, and then to complete amazement. The judges exchanged glances, whispering softly, because they all knew they were witnessing something rare, something real, something that comes once in many years. The melody rose like a bird learning to fly, and the teen's voice soared with it, bringing the entire room into one heartbeat. As he reached the middle of the song, the atmosphere changed completely. The crowd felt the emotion rising like a tide. Under the stage, his voice carried a trembling power that made people forget they were in a huge auditorium. Instead, they felt as if they were sitting in a quiet room, listening to a memory wrapped in music. He sang with the softness of someone remembering a loved one, and the strength of someone trying to become who he was meant to be. His eyes glistened, but he did not hold back. He poured everything into each line, letting the music become his language, his message, his offering to the world. And when he reached the high note, the audience erupted before he even finished holding it. A wave of cheers and gasps, and rising energy that pushed him even higher. His legs almost weak from the emotion, but his voice refusing to break, carrying the final note with a glowing steadiness that made the judges rise slowly from their chairs, as if pulled by the force of pure talent. When the song ended, the entire auditorium exploded into applause that shook the walls. People stood up everywhere, some with tears in their eyes, others clapping so hard their hands reddened. The host backstage covered his mouth, whispering, "This is unbelievable!" And Simon Cowell stared at the teen, with a look he rarely gave anyone, a look of deep respect and genuine shock. The boy pressed the microphone against his chest, trying not to cry. As the sound of thousands cheering wrapped around him, like a storm of love, Simon finally stood up fully, and said that he had expected something good, but he had not expected something this powerful, this real, this unforgettable. He told the team that Elvis Presley would be proud of the voice he had just heard, that the sincerity in his tone was something no one could teach, that it came from the heart of someone who had lived through love and loss and hope even at a young age, and the audience cheered even louder at those words. The boy covered his face, overwhelmed by the kindness pouring toward him, like sunlight after a long storm. The judges began giving their comments one by one, each describing how his performance touched them differently. One judge said his voice carried a warmth that reminded her of home. Another said he delivered the song not as an imitation, but as a heartfelt tribute that felt new and timeless at the same time. Another said that the stage felt completely different the moment he began singing, as if the room reshaped itself around his voice. They all praised his courage, his tone, his control, and his emotion. And the boy listened with wide eyes, unable to believe that these world-famous judges were talking about him, clapping for him, smiling at him. He thanked them in a trembling voice, saying his family was watching from Cebu and that he hoped he made them proud. He mentioned his grandfather quietly, almost whispering, saying he wished he were here to see this moment. And when he said that, the entire audience let out a soft, collective sigh, touched by the sincerity he carried so naturally. Finally, the judges prepared for the most important moment, the vote that would determine his future on the show. But before they could even speak, the crowd started chanting yes, 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 filling the hall with a thunder of support that made the boy choke up again. And Simon Cowell raised his hand for silence. The entire room quieted instantly. And with a slow smile, Simon said that this was not just a yes. This was one of the easiest decisions he had ever made. He said that the boy belonged on this stage. Not just today, but for the rest of the competition. Because talent like this comes once in a great while. And as the judges gave their yes votes, one after another, the crowd erupted again. Confetti machines hissed softly from the sides. The lights brightened like sunrise, breaking over the horizon, and the teen fell to his knees, unable to contain the emotion that surged inside him. As he walked off stage, the host embraced him tightly, telling him that he had just created one of the most unforgettable moments of the season. The cameras followed him as he wiped his tears with the back of his hand, smiling through the emotion, whispering that he hoped his grandfather could hear him. Somehow that he hoped his voice reached wherever the old man was. And as he walked through the backstage hallway, his heart felt light and full at the same time, like someone who had just unlocked a door that had been waiting for him since childhood. He knew this was only the beginning, that there were more songs to sing, more moments to create, more hearts to touch. And as he finally sat down and held the microphone, gently he whispered, "Thank you to the world, to the stage, to the memory that guided him, and to the voice inside him that carried him here from the quiet evenings in Cebu to the bright, powerful lights of America's Got Talent." A journey that felt like a dream, finally waking into reality.